You're listening to Death of JR. That's not true. Death of the Reader. We're in part 3 of our Who Shot JR discussion. This is your Murder Mystery World Tour. And we're talking about American TV show Dallas, Season 4, Episode 4, Whodunnit. I'm your host, Herds, with Cam here.
Hello.
Who has been doing the solving on this one.
I did a big solve.
Well, hold on. Full spoilers for maybe even the entirety of Season 4 of Dallas. Possibly even, because we're gonna talk about some future spoilers. It's gonna be great. I just want to say it's been absolutely fantastic going on this roller coaster of emotions with you.
What a wild ride this has been.
I absolutely loved this episode. There is so much filler. Watching Sue Ellen talk for, I think, 10 of the 48 minutes about what happened in the previous episode using footage that we have already seen for the past 4 episodes. Multiple times we see the same scene of her going to Kristen's place.
While under hypnosis.
That's true. She goes under hypnosis and like, how can we possibly prove that Sue Ellen is not guilty? We better use hypnosis because it's a 90s murder mystery.
80s.
Right. 80s even better.
Soap opera. And then they come to the conclusion after hypnotizing her that she was too drunk.
She was too drunk to act. That's true, actually. They go through that whole scene and she's like, I don't remember everything because I was just too drunk. I just couldn't remember anything.
And the psychologist is like, yes, you were too drunk, Sue Ellen.
It's fantastic. We should say that is absolutely the highlight of the episode, watching Sue Ellen just mumble in her hypnosis sleep for 10 minutes. But this comes after, of course, she was arrested at the end of last episode. And there's a huge hubbub around her bail money.
Oh, this is just terrible.
I need to tell you that based on the episodes that I've seen here, I think the Ewing family is the bad guys.
Oh, absolutely. They're
the
awful
worst.
people. Even like Ma and Pa, they're just terrible. They're so two-faced. They say one thing to one person and they do another thing.
I've written down my in-depth analysis here. So here's the thing. Based on the end of this episode, I was under the impression that Kristen had actually posted Sue Ellen's bail.
Yeah.
But you may remember from back in our first episode, the spoilers for future episodes of Dallas. Apparently, Sue Ellen found her former lover, Dusty, after he secretly put up her bail when she was accused of shooting her husband.
Oh my God, that's
Apparently,
why it says presumably died in a plane crash.
Yes, because he was the one who put up the $100,000 bail. Anyway,
oh my God.
I forget what my original point was.
It just keeps on coming. We're talking about the awfulness of the Ewing family.
Yes.
It's not just JR who is a terrible person.
Anyway, yes. So the whole problem here is that they got to put up the money and nobody wants to do it. Cliff Barnes says that he'll do it, but the Ewings basically all say, well, she's only going to make it worse for herself if we let her out, which is just such rich white people talk.
Was it
so
Cliff
awful.
or was it Bobby who said he'd pay it up? I think Bobby said he'd pay it up. I don't think Cliff could afford it.
Bobby said he'd look into it. Cliff was more actively trying to find the money to the point that when Sue Ellen did get the bail paid by her former lover, Clayton.
Dusty,
not Clayton. I've got both names in front of me around. Dusty Farlow, presumably died in a plane crash. Sue Ellen goes to Cliff Barnes and he buys her like flowers because he thinks he's going to get it on with her. He does not because she needs to go see her child.
Yes.
We'll get into that. But yeah, the point is that the Ewing family, they all say, we shouldn't pay for her bail. And she's horrified about the idea of spending one night in prison, which again is classic white people talk.
Yeah.
It's just rich white people problems, this show. But when she finally gets out and she has a conversation with Ma, we're calling her Ma. Her name isn't Ellie, it's Ma. Ma says, well, I don't actually think you could have shot JR at all.
It must have been terrible for you to be in prison.
But you were advocating for leaving him in there. Same with Pam.
Yeah, just terrible, awful people. The Barnes family are the true heroes of Dallas. I'll hear no more on this issue, Your Honor. Yeah,
my issue that I was going to say was that the writers wanted Kristen to be the one who posted the bail, which is why we have the Ewings, reluctant to post the bail, is so that Kristen can do it. But that still works because they wanted Dusty to do it. So they had to have the Ewings and ah over it so that somebody else could post it off screen, which consequently means that everybody in the Ewing family looks like a butthole.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
they don't actually care about her.
Yeah, an innocent woman, it turns out, but they couldn't have known that.
Yeah, they all say to her, "We always knew you were innocent," which is crazy. But yeah, it's just one of those things because the show is, of course, still trying to seed the plot lines for future episodes of the show.
Which we get a lot in this.
Yes, we do. There are even characters that show up that I don't know who they are and I don't care about them. The people that Cliff Barnes talks to. But yeah, so it's that classic soap opera thing. And so in order to set up that future plot line where it turns out that Dusty was the one who bailed her out, the Ewings' public image on the show has to suffer. Which is a problem, right? It's a problem with this kind of style of show where they have their core plot lines, but they're always trying to like churn this plotline mill where we're like shoving one out at the same time as we're bringing the next one in.
Yeah, they're overlapping. And
yeah, it just goes on forever.
Yeah, you got to make room for new stuff. JR's zipping about like Professor X in his wheelchair. He's got an electric wheelchair at home.
Yeah, a motorized wheelchair, which is incredible. I've got in my notes that when Sue Ellen and Kristen, they show up to like do the final scene, Sue Ellen's quote unquote cornered JR on the patio. And he zooms his little motorized wheelchair to the phone, but he can't reach the phone. So he, in order to, I assume, spite Sue Ellen, stands up out of the wheelchair so that he can get to the phone.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I thought he was going to sprint across the, like, out
he's going to keep running. He's going to keep running.
Yeah, just keep running, jump over the fence in order to get away from Sue Ellen.
Do a flip and get out of there.
Sadly, that's not what he does. Although he does try really hard to keep her away from her child, who does not want to be on set.
No, absolutely not. That little boy hates being on set. In all bar maybe one or two of the scenes we've seen, he is crying. And the actors are obviously trying to act around it. Like JR picks him up and just he starts bawling. And when Sue Ellen visits him in the park, they're eating food.
Silly.
And then he starts crying.
Yeah. The only times when he doesn't seem to be crying are when they're like feeding him little, I don't know, chocolates or something.
Or grapes or he's got a little cowboy toy in his mouth, which is probably full of lead paint.
Don't take this as parental advice, but when the kid has something in his mouth, he's eating or chewing on his toys, he's happy.
I mean, I suppose that's the idea of a dummy, right? I mean, yeah.
A dummy?
Yeah.
You're right. Oh, you mean like a
pacifier.
A pacifier, yeah.
If I want to use the American term, a pacifier.
That's a good one.
Sorry, Flex, this is now a parenting show.
Oh no. We've diverged too far. This is why we shouldn't let Flex out of the building. We need him to keep us on track.
Oh dear.
I guess the other thing we should probably mention is
there's not too much going on that's pertinent to the actual murder mystery. It's all setting up new plot lines. We get some progression with Lucy and Mitch, that romance.
Yes, you're right. That does continue on.
Lucy's bought him a bunch of books so he doesn't have to work as hard, so he can spend time with them, which is extremely possessive.
He takes them, which he shouldn't. I get he needs the money, but
he is now under her influence. He's wrapped around her finger. Lucy's going to get her way.
She's going to ruin him. She's going to ruin that Mitch, that man.
Yeah. He's going to flunk out of medical school and ruin his career, and she's going to drop him like a hot coal.
Yeah, I mean, there is some self-awareness to it, I should say. Like, I feel like the Ewings kind of paint themselves as villains is not 100% intentional. Like, obviously, the drama of, like, the oil company is there, but I feel like Lucy is very purposefully being set up as kind of a villain because, like, I hope so at least. Let's see how far my charitable read of the show goes. Because obviously, like, the way that she's giving him books and trying to, take him out and stop him from working is kind of the same thing that's happened to Sue Ellen. Because when the lawyer sits her down at the start of the episode and says, well, we've got to get you out on bail. Will your family do it? And she says, no, they won't because they just don't care. And he says, do you have your mother or your father or someone? She's like, they won't help me. Do you have any jewelry? And she says, well, I do have some personal effects, but they're all inside of JR's like personal locked safe.
She's totally reliant on the Ewings to exist. And the same thing's going to happen to Mitch if he's not careful.
Yeah, I actually quite like that plot line that there is that level of self-awareness about like Sue Ellen, as much as she's on the hysteria plot line, which is very Freudian and awful, but like she is given some compassion throughout these episodes to a degree that we would kind of expect, I suppose. But in that line, we kind of see that, yeah, her husband, as much as he's controlling the family and the company and controlling Bobby and Jock's opinion of him, he's also controlling his wife, even to the point of taking all of her worldly possessions, locking them up in his safe deposit box and making her completely reliant on him. And that's awful. She's in like the worst situation she could possibly be in.
No wonder she's an alcoholic and she's having breakdowns because she's in this awful abusive relationship with JR.
According to the wiki, she leaves in like the 12th season, which might
12th season?
Yeah, she's in there for the long haul and she comes back.
She comes back?
Yes, for the 2012 revival.
Of course.
The 2012 revival centers around Sue Ellen and Kristen's baby who has been adopted by Bobby and Pam. Let's just not even go there.
Sure. I wonder why that was. Anyway.
There's a lot going on there, but like, yeah, Sue Ellen is a character that will continue to return in the series. And according to the deep lore, she was supposed to be like a very minor background character. She was supposed to be like an Alan Beam character. And when she was interviewed for the part, they didn't even have her like come into the studio. She just did it over the phone, apparently. But she's much in the same way that JR kind of rose to prominence. And maybe partly because of that, she also has kind of taken that center stage.
Well, she does have a certain intensity. She
does.
She's got a lot of facial expressions. Those eyebrows are working double time.
I mean, look, she has one really good expression, and that's her like manically darting her eyes around the room and grinding her teeth. That's her face. But she does do it very well.
Does very well.
Compliments.
Yeah. I don't think there's much else we can talk about story-wise without spoiling the mystery, so I think we should head across.
Well, on that note, that's going to wrap it up for the story discussion. We're going to have to really dive deep into the mystery section in the third part of the show today of Season 4, Episode 4, in brackets, Whodunnit, Who Shot JR on Dallas. There's a lot of titles I have to keep saying. Look, it's Who Shot JR, the finale, and we're going to be discussing who has done it, Kristen, in the third part of the show, and of course, deliberating out your points, Cam, because we'll be getting at least 1 point.
Yes.
Which, let's see if it's enough to make up for last book's shenaniganry.
Look, as long as I get to solve, I think I've redeemed myself.
Well, I think you've done pretty well. You're listening to Death of the Reader. This is Herds and Cam for part 3 of our discussion on Who Shot JR.
It was Kristen.
Full spoiler. Wow, I can't believe you full spoilers. It was Kristen. Kristen's the one who shot JR for, apparently it was in a fit of anger and possibly revenge. I'd like to know, first off, Cam, you did manage to figure out who the killer was.
It was
maybe an episode later than I would have liked, but I need to know how you're feeling about that. How you feeling coming off that deduction?
Look, I'm feeling good for my first solve on Death of the Reader.
Yeah.
Coming off nearly getting it in Takes a Town and completely screwing the goose on that one.
I know, that was good fun. I enjoyed that a lot.
So look, I'm just happy to get the solve. Did I get everything? Probably not, but I'm just glad I got the solve.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of fun because obviously like we're doing season 4 episode 4 Whodunnit as our context here, but because of the nature of the show of Dallas, like the ramifications and the explanations are going to roll on into like the next 5 episodes.
Yeah.
There's an episode like 3 episodes down the line, which is we're still dealing with Bobby being the president of the oil company and what's JR gonna do next? Like the story goes on forever. That's how this thing is designed. But for our purposes, you proposed 2 separate theories. So you get 1 point from that. You used evidence from season 4. You got enough of it from the first episode. I'm going to steal 1 point from you today.
Yep, that's fine.
But did you solve everything? Did you earn the other 2 points unavailable out of the 4 that were up for offer? I'm going to say no. I think you did an excellent job at figuring out Kristen. It wasn't very specific, but you did kind of figure most of that stuff out. Picked up a lot of the clues, which I really enjoyed. But the reason why she sticks around and why she's also constantly saying that she's part of the family, like obviously she is Sue Ellen's sister, but it's also because she's running the narrative I'm not going to say that this is true, but she's running the narrative that she is actually pregnant with JR's child.
Oh my God.
That is the thing that I was like needling on you at the end of last week.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you 2 points for this week, which is still pretty good. I think this was something that stunned the nation. This discussion.
This discussion, not the show. This discussion. This show.
Well, I was going to tell you that according to the polls and the predictions, Kristen was, at first, she was given 4-1 odds, which is one of the best set of odds on the show as having shot JR. But of course, by the time it got to the last episode, her odds were at 3-1, which was the best. Like that, she was considered the most likely character to have shot JR. Yeah, so you get 2 points, I get 1 point.
That's Dallas, baby.
That's Dallas, baby. I do like how fair the story is in terms of putting Kristen front and center, because she does play that femme fatale character really well. And I like how in the last 3 episodes, this is something we brought up last week, but she literally is on screen for one scene, maybe 2 in the first episode, because she needs to set up Sue Ellen.
She sets up Sue Ellen with the story that she tells her, and then she's there in the hospital. Kristen, you're so lovely and great to be here.
What are you doing here?
You're being so supportive to your sister. Oh, I'm just part of the family.
Because she's got JR's baby. And then in the next 2 episodes, there's only one scene in each. She hangs out with Alan Beam for a little bit, and then she taunts JR and she pushes the wheelchair in front of him. It was pretty funny. She's still present in the story. She doesn't completely disappear, but she is on the edges. And that's kind of a classic trope of, the killer that the author is trying to hide in the margins of the story.
Hiding in plain sight.
Even to the often, well, not just in plain sight, but like they're barely in the story. They're in just enough key moments that you could see how they could be involved, but not enough that you think of them as a main character. Like I'm thinking about Everyone on This Train as a Suspect. That's a really good example of this kind of killer, just because that's in my brain right now. How the killer in that novel is overshadowed by a character who sort of shares a lot of screen time with them. They're in the story, but they're not present enough to really push them into the limelight. Although Kristen does enjoy the limelight, she really milks it. She's really vindictive against JR, and she really says a lot of, helpful lines if you're looking for a motivation that's set around love and relationships and scheming, because effectively this whole thing is like a scheme that Kristen's doing, because that's her character archetype to play off of JR, around the fact that she's trying to make sure that she's supported when she has her baby, right? That's why she doesn't just kill JR outright. She apparently didn't really mean to kill JR is what's going on. It's a bit, it's a bit weird, because we're trying to, again, have a murder mystery on a show where we want to shoot a main character but not actually have them die.
Yeah, just soften them up a bit.
Yeah.
They really left it to the last minute in this episode, didn't they? They really held you on right to the last couple of seconds of the episode.
I wasn't sure. Can I tell you, when I was watching this with you, Cam, I don't need to tell you this, you were there, but I need to tell the people that I wasn't sure we were going to get a proper reveal.
No, I wasn't sure either.
We were up to the last 4 minutes, and we'd spent the last 10 minutes with Sue Ellen and her hypnosis scene. I thought, wow, are we going to have time to really explain what's going on?
Do we got to watch another episode? What's going on?
Do we need to watch the next episode? And maybe we should, honestly, but I don't have the time. I just don't. But yeah, Sue Ellen bursts onto the scene. JR has to get out of his wheelchair.
Professor X is away from her.
Professor X is way over to the phone. And then pretty much as soon as she's about to say Kristen did it, Kristen shows up.
She was hiding behind a pot plant.
She was hiding behind a nearby bush. And yet she basically confesses. She says, well, you can't call the cops because I've got your baby, JR, and do you want your child to be born in a prison? Maybe I'll write my memoirs there. And that's our confession scene. Sue Ellen was apparently also the detective all along, which is very strange.
Yeah, I mean, that's not something we didn't really discuss, was who the detective was in this.
There isn't really a detective. You'd think it would be Bobby because he's our protagonist, but
he gets sidetracked with all the business stuff, so he's sort of taken out of the whole investigation. I suppose our false red herring suspect would then, who we follow quite a lot in this set of episodes, would end up becoming our detective, even though she doesn't detect very much other than remembers some stuff later on.
She remembers some stuff through hypnosis. Yeah, it's fun because obviously, again, we're playing into the trope of like when the character at the start of the novel is suspected of doing the crime that they haven't committed, they need to rise to the challenge to prove themselves innocent or prove their best friend or their dog innocent or their whatever. It doesn't really matter. Or their romantic partner, if it's that sort of story. But in this case, it's less of Sue Ellen, rising to the challenge and more kind of just like through desperation, stumbling onto the solution.
Yes, because she's completely forgotten everything about it. And then her psychiatrist reminds her that she didn't put the gun in back in the closet.
Yeah.
And that's what triggers the memory.
Yeah, he says, but when did the gun get into the closet? And she says, well, I feel like my purse, I changed purses at some point. And it's because she's like left her purse at Kristen's.
She just leaves the gun there. She takes her purse with her. She's holding the gun in her hand and she just puts the gun down on the drink tray and just leaves it there.
I had in my mind written a better script because switching purses would have made more sense. Look, I don't normally like to rewrite authors' stories, but I do feel like I would have, like, I don't know how you feel being the person solving this, but I do feel like it would have been more satisfying if we'd actually like watched either the path of the gun itself or watch as Sue Ellen actually uncovered the various events of the night.
Absolutely. That would have been a much better way to reveal this with, because you had it right there. You had the issue of Sue Ellen not being able to remember what happened. And for her over these four episodes for her to realize what's happening throughout the investigation and then retracing her steps and leading herself back to Kristen.
But for no particular reason, right? Like, yeah, it's so strange. I mean, yeah, it's kind of fun that way because I do think that giving Sue Ellen a stronger, structured plot line throughout these episodes rather than just having her kind of meander and be thrown about by the police, I guess.
The family politics
and all that. Like, I get, that is part of her story, but I think that giving her some more agency in terms of like, I'm going to figure out why was she at the airport? I mean, maybe, you know what? Actually, Dusty died in a plane crash, didn't he? Is that why she was at the airport? I don't know.
I looked. I just let's leave that to the side. I think let's not even touch that. Let's not even touch that.
She was trying to find her husband, but yeah, there was no structured reason for her to like uncover what was going on. It was much more like when the detective is sitting there thinking, "How can I figure out this mystery?" And then someone says, "It's like someone just drank all the blood," and then the detective goes, "Drank all of the blood."
Say that again.
Say that again. Drank all of the blood. Oh, you figure. It's much more like that, except that this isn't even a detective. This is just a character in the story.
Just stumbling into it. I just want to say that they make a point to show that Kristen was wearing gloves when she shot JR, but then when she took the gun and put it into, just, I guess, chucked it into the closet.
Just chucked it in.
She's not wearing gloves, so they absolutely should have picked up her fingerprints on that gun.
There's a few points of continuity that kind of strange. That was one. I forgot if it was this episode or the last one. It was last episode with Lucy's dress.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. Look, we're in part 3 covering episode 4, but back in part 3, there was a continuity error. Maybe, actually, with Lucy Ewing and her dress.
Actually, she's wearing the blue dress and when she sees Mitch, but when she leaves for breakfast, she's wearing a white shirt. And then when she sees something else, I don't know what she does after that.
So she sees Greg in the white dress and then she sees... No, wait, you're right. She leaves from breakfast in the white dress and then she sees Greg in the blue dress. And then she sees Mitch in the white dress again. And it's not clear whether it's a day has passed.
Or she just got changed. She just got
changed. Who knows? Anyway, there's some
I can't look hot for this guy. I'm going to get changed into my regular poor person's blue dress. Then I'm going to wear my fabulous white dress to see Mitch.
To see my man. Anyway, I guess I feel like that about covers the mystery.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like it was Kristen. She shot him because reasons, and she's like, pregnant. That's it. That's all it is.
She's frigante. The Dana Moore scene was like 2 minutes long at best.
No, I don't even think it was I don't think it cracked a minute.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Oh, man.
I don't know. I guess, are there any other elements of the mystery that you thought maybe went missing or that might make more sense now that we've made it to the end? Because a lot of it seems like it's going to get resolved in future episodes.
Yeah, I think so. Look, I think some more scrutiny with Cliff Barnes being, the family nemesis, right? He's the foil to JR. He works in the DA's office. And he even says that he was at the building with a gun ready to shoot JR,
Yes,
but then
he does.
He was already shot when he got there. And that's why we see him at the beginning scenes with him being carted away in the ambulance. That's why he's there. I don't know. I feel like I would have liked to have seen more scrutiny because it was basically, Cliff Barnes, you're suspected of shooting JR. Let's test your gun. Oh, your gun is not the one. You are safe now.
You are safe. And then he suffers some minor inconvenience at his work. He's put on vacation for like a week. And then he's back. He gets sent back in.
Yeah, we mentioned last week, but he confesses to Pam that he was going to do it. But by that point, we know it wasn't him, so there's no stakes.
Yeah, it doesn't go anywhere. I agree. Yeah, it ends up, maybe I should have said at the start of our discussion, but the first 20 minutes of season 4, episode 4, are just basically resetting the status quo. Like Cliff Barnes gets his job back and Sue Ellen gets out of jail and, none of it really matters. You really are just waiting around for the last minute of this episode.
They definitely ran out of stuff to do with these characters because they just, it's four episodes, by the way. The middle act, I guess, if you wanted to look at it as a play in 3 acts, the middle act is 3 episodes long, which is a real stretch. I guess you got to milk those ratings, but yeah, it was. You know what? I think even if it was part of a series today, I don't think they would have done 4 episodes worth of stuff. I think it would have been. if I'm thinking about some other shows that I've watched, they would have resolved it within the first 10 minutes of the season opener.
No, I definitely feel like, closing thoughts on this show, I definitely feel like it is drawn out, as is the nature of things. I'm happy that we covered it. I really enjoyed it, especially, I think the main thing that I enjoyed is thinking about how a show like this, takes the gap that a murder can create and fills it with other characters, gives characters new challenges, like Bobby taking control of the business is a thread that will continue on later into the season. Also a really good way to kind of reassert both JR's power in that he can control the company from the sidelines. Like he can't walk, but he can still make phone calls, but also putting Bobby into a place of higher responsibility. And generally, I feel like Jock, like he's the one who finds the gun, but he's also kind of pushed further down the totem pole. We're kind of focusing less on him.
I'm pretty sure he's also drunk the whole time for this episode.
I agree. The way that he slurs his line when he answers the phone. Yeah, and he's more of a grunt than a word of the English language. It's great. Yeah.
Closing thoughts for me. It's very entertaining. Look, as much as we say they've dragged it out, I don't know. I think of it being a relic of that period of time of broadcast television. I can see why this show is so popular. The characters are larger than life. They're very fun to watch, and the stings are pretty good. They keep you hanging on for as long as they possibly can before delivering that final blow, and it's a lot of fun.
It is. Yeah, I mean, Whodunnit was, like, when it came out, apparently the highest rated television episode in US history, and apparently 83 million people watched the episode. So it was pretty big importance at the time. Even if we look back on it now, we kind of go, well, that's quaint, that's strange. I guess we'll have to see if they do another revival, and if they do, maybe it'll be Who Shot Christopher Ewing.
Oh my God.
Wouldn't that be incredible?
It was Kristen again.
It was Kristen again. She's back. I think she might be deceased in the current timeline. But
I just can't stop shooting people because I have their babies in me.
Yeah. Although I do know that she comes back in an alternate timeline as a cop. I think it's like JR has a dream about a multiverse.
God.
It's the Dallas multiverse.
JR Ewing in the multiverse of madness.
That's exactly it. That still happens. And Kristen's there and she's a cop, but she arrests him. It's the whole thing. Anyway, now that we've spoiled many individual moments from Dallas, maybe go watch it yourself.
How are we supposed to do a Dallas show now, Heard? We've spoiled all the episodes.
I know. There's just no reason to watch it. Also, Dusty will return. That's Dallas, baby.
That's Dallas, baby.
Well, that'll about do it for this week. We will have Flex back on the show.
I'm excited to be back. It's been fun hiding in the producer booth for the past week.
You're just kicking me to the curb.
You've had enough time in the sun.
And we will be back covering a murder mystery book that Flex will be.
I can't wait to listen to this one.
It's Too Much of Water by Bruce Hamilton, chapters 1 to 4.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time. So thank you very much for joining me, Cam. You are, of course, starring on, and the rest of you listening to, Death of the Reader, Your Murder Mystery World Tour. This has been Herds and Cam. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Back in the box I go.
Back into the cryotube.